Yo guys, how we doing? Better Babby here and welcome back to another episode. So we are back in London today and we were traveling over the weekend, so we don't have that many hands of the week so far. However, I did just cross the line of my first 100,000 hands of GG 1K, so we're going to start by looking at that graph now. So as you can see, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster, never really been down more than 20 buy-ins, so obviously not that big of a swing overall, and also the volume is quite low still as well. However, we have just climbed out of the hole for the very first time over the entire sample, and we are now winning at a massive 0.02 big blinds per 100, or an EV 1.25 big blinds per 100. And not only that, I am definitely running a lot better in this part of the sample than I was at the beginning. Now, in terms of how I feel the GG games are playing and also moving forward, what I can expect from the games, I do honestly think that I have a win rate, and I might be somewhat deluded in saying that, given that pretty much, like, I don't know what percentage, 95% of regs, let's just say, do not win pre-rate back on GG. That said, I think I've been fairly careful with my game selection. We're not talking like ultimate bum hunting or anything like that, and I have been reg battling some, particularly on the 500 anti-tables. But I do believe that I have a win rate in these games, and only time will really tell. But perhaps that confidence, or unfounded confidence, depending on the way you're looking at it, does come from playing like millions and millions of hands at other stakes and having had a pretty good win rate over that sample. However, I've never really been playing in a rake environment that's like 7.5 big blinds per 100. So overall, I just can't tell for certain whether or not I do have a proper win rate, a very, very small win rate, or maybe even a loss rate, who knows. But what I do know is that I will be focusing on GG 1K for the rest of my trip, and that's guaranteed for the next 2 months. And then when I get back to Australia, I will obviously be mixing 1K in as well, and who knows, 5K in the future as well. That is the goal after all for this channel. The only other thing to mention is rake back and bonuses. So there was a bit of an overlap in my spreadsheet between 5KNL and 1KNL, so I can't quite decipher which was 1KNL rake back and which was 5KNL rake back. However, from the research that I have done, it looks like I've probably made about 25% rake back or something like that. I think my rake attributed was around $65,000, and I made like roughly 20-something thousand dollars. And that is before envelopes, GG Care, and the BBJ. So I think over that 100,000 hand sample, I probably, as you can see, have made no money. But I think I've made somewhere in the region of like 50K or 45K in rake back and bonuses. So overall, it's been a pretty successful first 100,000 hands, I'd say. So now we've got the graph out of the way, let's get on into today's hands. So the first 2 hands today happened simultaneously at 2-5 anti-tables, and they were both 600 big blind pots. We get absolutely abused by an old school high stakes reg, and then we make a pretty speculative all-in bluff for 3 times pot on the river with king high into another reg. So the first massive pot today, which is the 600 big blind pot, we have got ace 3 of spades on the button. We get an open from a competent reg in MP to just under 3x. This is quite a standard opening size for these games. We cold call the button with ace 3 of spades. I'm never going to be folding my hand, and I am going to be 3-betting it sometimes. So we get squeezed by a relatively tight reg in the big blind, and I think that our equity just goes up with these kind of suited aces. I don't really want to start calling hands like Queen Jack, and King Queen suited, because it's very easy to get overflushed. I would rather kind of put my calls more into my suited ace X and then fold some of those ones that can get super cooled, especially when we are mega deep. We flop a pretty nice second pair on 10-3 deuce with a flush draw, and villain starts out with a half pot c-bet. Don't think we have any other options here but to call. I don't think I'm going to play any raises when we're this deep, particularly when it's only a squeeze spot and not a cold 4-bet spot, so we really just do have a disadvantage here. We are probably going to have deuces and 3s occasionally though, so that is something important to mention. We turn a gut shot on the 5 of hearts, and villain goes ahead and chooses a 3/4 pot sizing. Now, I'm wondering whether or not this is already a bit of a thin spot for out of position on this particular board. The reason I say that is, as in position here, we are going to be calling a bunch of pocket 10s, some low pocket pairs. We're going to have pocket 5s most of the time because we're going to defend the flop with our backdoor straight draw and a very likely diamond in our hand as well. And then we're also going to have some ace 4 suited as well. That said, we do really lack that kind of overpair region that out of position does have. Although what I will say is that I will be cold calling queens and jacks and 10s pre-flop here, and then probably just pure defending them versus the squeeze. With our exact combo, I don't see any other option but just to call. We see a pretty innocuous 9 on the river. I imagine that I'm going to be folding pocket nines always on the turn, and I imagine out of position never is going to have pocket nines, so it seems like a mega brick to me. So villain now tanks for a bit and ends up jamming for just around pot, which is incidentally well over 200 big blinds. Admittedly, this isn't really 200 big blinds just because of the ante and the big squeeze and that kind of thing, but for the sake of the video, it's 200 big blinds. So we have a pretty interesting decision here. I decide that my combo is just going to make an excellent call. I do believe that out of position is now not going to be bluffing diamonds because those are going to be the combos that we're going to have, but I also just don't think that out of position is ever going to use a hand with an ace in them. The reason for that is they just really want to have blockers to hands like pocket queens, I would say, even though you might argue that pocket queens is the folding range for in position here, but I just don't see out of position bluffing an ace when that can just be blocking our folding range, so I just think that that's not going to happen. Overall, I would say that this is going to be a spot that is probably relatively under-bluffed, and it is very, very easy for me to find calling combos. Hands like 5-4, hands like this, and then hands like 10x. I think a combo like ace-10 is probably just going to be the absolute nut bluff catching combo here. Blocking pocket 10s, blocking pocket aces, and blocking ace-4 suited. But you can't always have the premium blocking qualities that you want. And I do block ace-4, and I do block pocket aces, so I do decide that I am just going to actually call my combo always. Maybe this is way out of line. I would be very interested to hear people's thoughts on this one. We do make the call after a bit of a tank, and this time out position does have pocket aces with a diamond for the monster pot. I think this is the biggest big blind pot that I've played in a very long time. Nice hand to them. So as the pot was being pushed to my opponent on the other table, we get this 8-7 of hearts in MP on the very next table. We get a limp for 5 or 1 big blind from a pretty big recreational player. Not many hands, that's why I haven't got them tagged, didn't have any specific reads on them. And we ISO to 40. It looks like 8x, but it's not really 8x given the ante and how deep everyone is. We get cold called by a massive VIP in the cutoff. Now this player was playing multiple tables, and I know you can see that they're only 34 VPIP, but rest assured, on the other tables they were playing monster VPIPs. Well, actually it was more like 3 hands of 90 VPIP, and then they ended up busting and then leaving the table. But needless to say, they were a very, very fun player. We get a re-ISO to 150 in the small blind. So again, don't see this as 30 big blinds, see this more as like probably more of a 5-10 game. So it's about 15 big blinds or something around that. Now I think this is a very close spot with my combo. I think that if I was out of position to both players, if this was a squeeze from the button, I would 100% fold. And also, if the cutoff wasn't a massive VIP and either they were just like a regular recreational or maybe a boring recreational or even a very bad reg, I think I would just always fold my combo. I could be convinced that this is not a very good call pre, but be curious to hear what people think about this. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that I just lost the 600 big blind pot on the other table. So I do elect to call for another 111 more, and the recreational in the cutoff also does come along. We see a very, very good, I would say, given the circumstances, where we flop top pair and an open-ended straight draw. Small blind goes into the tank a little bit. I'm quite expecting to see like a number of bets and big bets as well as checks. Wasn't really expecting to see this bet. Now, I think ordinarily if we were heads up, this is just a very, very easy call. Just like run the equity here and just kind of see what happens. We can definitely get it in versus some flush draws as well and be quite far ahead. The only thing to mention is that in position, who is a recreational and a big recreational, that is all over this board. My thinking here was that this recreational would probably just call off a hand like ace-4 of diamonds, or even a hand like 8-5 suited or 5-4 suited as well. So we do get it in dominating them. However, they may block some of our outs. I decided that I would just fold a hand like 8-7 of diamonds and 8-7 of spades, and with the backdoor equity here, I just decided I can't really fold my combo, particularly when the recreational can just have a hand like queen jack offsuit and just fold. So I do decide to flick it in and just hope for the best, really. The recreational behind absolutely turbo snaps it off, and I'm so surprised to see that they have pocket jacks. I think this just goes to show that it's just a complete nonsense recreational that's just all over the place. And I have pretty good equity here, three-way, with about 46% equity, running about the same amount of equity as the small blind. So we're definitely going to need some help, and that does come straight on the turn. 9 of diamonds, Gg 1, 2, 3 in the window on the turn. We're just having to fade the chop now, and fortunately on this occasion, we do. Very lucky hand. What do people think of this one? Next up, we have King 6 of clubs on the button, and we open it up to just under 3x, which is what I'm doing at these tables. Now, we're playing a four-handed reg table, or reg battle, should I say, but the small blind is a very new reg, and I have no reads on them. But given their flag and the fact that they were playing a number of tables, I'm assuming that they are at least some kind of reg, but I have no reads beyond that. We have a very easy continue, whether or not we want to 4-bet this combo sometimes and call sometimes. I don't feel strongly either way. We see a pretty boring Jack 9-8, which is a absolute nothing burger for our combo. I think with clubs exactly here, I'm never going to bet my combo. And if I'm going to start betting one of these kind of 1 over 1 under combos, it's going to be a hand with a backdoor flush draw and not the absolute airball that blocks the folding range. Now we see a 4 of hearts on the turn, bringing a flush draw. We still have a nothing hand, but we now do have clubs, and we also have a relatively mediocre over to the board. Now, I think when OOP double checks, they're going to have far more ace high than they're going to have king high. So I do prefer bluffing a bunch of my king highs that check back the flop, particularly a hand with no backdoor flush draw, than I do with an ace high combo. That said, I actually will bluff the turn with some ace 3, I think, something like that I've defended the flop with, simply because we just can't find enough bluffs from our random combos. Like, we can't just be bluffing ace queen here to balance out the rest of our range. You have to remember that when I do check back the flop, I'm going to have a bunch of pocket 8s, pocket 9s, and pocket jacks. I'm also going to have turn pocket 4s, and then I'm also going to have some ace jack that I'm deciding to delay, or queen jack, or jack 10, or something along those lines. So this one to me felt like a very, very good bluffing candidate. I think it's probably going to be a mix in theory. I just want to say I haven't looked again at this hand in theory. For the most part, unless I've looked at the sim, and I'll tell you that I've looked at the sim, I generally try and not look at the sim, because I think then the viewers get a little bit more of like a kind of a real-time what I was thinking in-game. So I figured in-game this is probably going to be a mix, and I just decided to bluff my combo always, and my only sizing I'm going to use here is going to be 2/3 pot. We see an ace of clubs on the river, which is a very interesting card. So I think first and foremost, a lot of people may look at this spot and think, oh, we're absolutely done here because out of position has more ace-x. And to be honest with you, that's just not that true. Out of position does just check fold a hand like ace-king on the turn, at least some of the time, I would imagine. Also, when we check back the flop, as I said, I have pocket 8s and pocket 9s and jacks. Maybe there are people watching this video who just will call bullshit on that. However, I know for a fact that I will be protecting my check back range, so I am going to have those combos in my range. The other thing to mention is that I'm going to have a bunch of ace jack and pocket 4s as well. So I do have a whole host of value bets on the river. There's even going to be a hand like ace 3 that I might have bet the turn with. A hand like ace 3 of hearts I think makes a very, very good value bet on the river. And then the last one is probably a hand like ace queen that I'm going to take this line with. I would say like reasonably high frequency, maybe even always on the turn, blocking some of the check raises from, I don't know, a slow played queen 10 or ace jack or something like that. So now we've defined the value region, I think we have a very, very clear split between 70 and then big. The big sizing is probably going to be an overbet, but I just think the top end of my value region can actually support an all-in. So I am actually just going to go with a mix between 2/3 and all-in. Again, I'm not mixing this spot because theory dictates. I am actually just mixing because I just have two very, very clear hand classes here. Neither player should have any queen 10. I'm definitely pure betting queen 10 on the flop, even though I'm checking back 8s and 9s. But I definitely do think that the river, we're just going to have a small bet sizes for a hand like ace queen and other ace-x. With all that in mind, I think my combo makes a very, very clear mix between both sizes. However, I'm definitely just going to be wanting to max my hand, max fold equity in my hand. And given that I'm kind of out of the way of all of the kind of the folds, my hand just doesn't interact with out of position's folding range. I just decide it's going to be a very good combo, and it's just going to get a lot of folds on the river when I do shove. As you can see, I was umming and ahhing about the sizing. I was thinking maybe 70 overbet was the sizing, and then I changed it to overbet. So I do end up shoving for around 2 or 3 times, about 3 times pot actually, and we get pretty much snap called on the river by pocket 10s. Honestly, I'm not sure what to say about this because I never check back queen 10 on the flop. Out of position never has pocket 10s, and arguably 10s actually block by bluffing range coming from a hand like king 10. So I think, or I'm going to just go out on a limb and say, I know that this is a very, very minus EV call. Exploitatively, who knows? Maybe if I'd gone small overbet or even B70 on the river, we could have got the fold, and we actually got baited by going all in. We will never know, but nice hand to them as well. And in the last hand today, we have got 6-5 of spades under the gun, and we open it up. And we get 3-bet via a very old school reg in MP. So this is a player that I never actually got to play with because they were always playing high stakes when I was playing low stakes. And I haven't heard anything from them for a long time. But yeah, they are seemingly back in the mix, which is great to see. So I have a call pre-flop. I didn't open always pre-flop, so I'm just going to call always when I do get 3-bet and when I've opened it low frequency. We see a very big flop with a double gutter and straight flush draw on 9-7-3 with 2 spades. Villain starts out with a half pot c-bet. I just want to say that I have looked at the sim for this hand, and I'm going to reserve what the sim has told me until the end of the hand, because I would like everyone to kind of write their comments on what they think of the hand so far. So I decide to raise my combo on the flop very, very often, but not always. I don't feel that strongly about raising or calling the flop. We have an invulnerable hand, right? So we do see the Jack of Hearts on the turn bring a second flush draw, and I wasn't sure what to do with my sizing scheme here. Pot is 600 and we have 800 behind. First things first, what do people want to do in this spot with our sizing scheme? Do you want to just have small bets, medium bets, just have all-ins? Do you want to mix between a small bet and a big bet? What do people want to do here? I elect to go half pot, and I have about 50 big blinds back on the river. We see a very, very unpleasing King of Hearts bringing in the rivered flush. So we have an option here. We can either check fold or we can shove. Again, what do you want to do in this spot? We got 6 high. We do block a flush draw that folds. An ace-5 of spades, I think, is the main candidate here. But we are also going to have some combos of 5-6. Maybe a combo like 5-6 of diamonds or clubs. Maybe we don't have those though, because when an 8 does come, we just get absolutely dicked by a 10. So maybe we don't have those combos to bluff. So if we're not going to bluff this combo, what combo do we choose to bluff? Let me know in the comments. Either way, I decide that I am always going to bluff my combo because, again, I don't really have those combos like the 5-6 of clubs and diamonds, because I probably would just check the turn. So I decide to shove every single time for around half pot. We don't really need to get that many folds given that we're only shoving for half pot. Do we even want to have some very, very small bets on the river? I'm not sure. Maybe a hand like King X of spades, King 10 of spades, maybe we want to go 10% pot. That is also an option. Villain goes very, very, very deep into the tank. Absolutely praying for a fold as he times down. And he ends up making a very, very sick hero call with pocket queens with a spade. So what do we think of Villain's call? What do we think of my bluff? And now I will share the kind of the output of the hand. So the reason this hand has been simmed is because I posted it around a few different discords and there was discussion around the hand and the sim came to light as well. So overall, I made several mistakes in this hand. In fact, I pretty much played my hand as badly as I could. On the flop, we are not ever meant to raise our combo. It's meant to be a pure continue via call. But again, EV's never going to be that bad of raising a hand with this much equity. On the turn, we actually play no small bets whatsoever. We are just playing pure jams. So I missed a trick on the turn as well. So that's 2 mistakes. And then on the river, fortunately, we are allowed to bluff, but it just doesn't exist in the sim. And once we arrive and we do bluff this combo, in position is actually meant to very, very low frequency call pocket queens with a spade. So I guess they are still just an M-boss and I am still just a low stakes scrub. So that's going to do it for today's video. If you enjoyed this episode, please do drop me a sub. We're going to be doing a giveaway at 10,000 subscribers, but needless to say, we are quite a way away at the moment. But until next time, take care and I'll see you at the tables.